All right, you're all set.
Well, hello everyone. Glad you could all make it. Welcome to Music and Color's March session of the 2021-2022 season. Today we are focusing on how innovation is redefined classical music today. And we're pleased to have one of our guest speakers here today. And if anyone has any questions, just be sure to place them in the chat and we'll try to get as many of them answered. So, if our special guests will introduce themselves and give a short background of who they are and what they do.
Sure, you want me to take it?
Yeah, sure. Just introduce yourself and give a bit of your background and what you do.
Got it. Yeah, so what's up, everybody? I'm Marcus Rated Art Bryant. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and the founder of a multimedia company called Loud Series, formed to educate, encourage, and motivate radical change. I've worked with John Legend, Her, Stokely, Ludacris, Kelly Rowland, and many others. I've spent a number of years with Settlement Music School as director, community engagement manager, and DEI officer. And currently, I am a governor at the Grammys Recording Academy, co-chairing our Leadership Council and Education Committee. Super excited to be here to have this conversation with you all.
Great, we're excited too. So, without further ado, let's get started with the questions. Morally, you start us off.
Hi, thanks, Patty. My name is Maura Lee, and I'd like to ask when you started to create innovative music.
Sure. So I've always been curious musically and interested in various approaches to creating music. And not having much equipment when I first began making music left room for innovation because you have to be more creative when you have less. So I would literally just turn buttons and see what would happen. And now having more equipment, I still find myself experimenting in similar ways. So yeah.
Thank you. Um, is Ronell here? I can take that. So I can ask the next question. So like looking back on this, how has it changed you as a musician and as a person? Like innovative music, how has that changed you?
Hmm. Uh, well, music has kept me curious. And because I work in multiple genres, it gives me a chance to hear different approaches and perspectives related to music. So, how has it changed me as a person? It has afforded me opportunities to connect with other people who are passionate about what they do as well, and what they play, how they play it, and it has a way of showing us how alike we are, no matter what we listen to or what we play. It's all interconnected.
That's a great answer. I never like thought of it that way. Thank you. Um, who's that? Yeah. Is Jayla here?
If Jayla isn't here, I can ask the question.
Mhm.
Alrighty, so you've been talking about how it's all interconnected, but is there like a significant, like challenging time in your music career? Like, was there a time when you didn't feel as connected with it, or there was like a rough patch in what you were going through, and how did you overcome that, and what has gotten you here today?
Yeah, thank you for that. I moved to Philadelphia years ago and ended up leaving and having to go back to Virginia to start all over again because of a failed partnership. Dum, 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 dum. And it was in that failure that I found myself again and learned from mistakes. But I came back on a better grasp of what I wanted to accomplish, and things started to open up during that second win. So I stand by the saying we never lose, we learn, and because it keeps my failures in perspective and allows me to use them for fuel. So yeah, it was a tricky time, but helped me in the long run.
I think Ryan is up next. So
I am up next. And just to bounce off of what you said, it's kind of reminds me of a saying that like I would hear sometimes whenever other like friendships or something didn't work, when other people come to your life as a blessing or a lesson. And like you said about your failures, how you just learn from them instead of like reflecting on them. Now, the next question I want to ask is, what are some positives and negatives about the music industry that you work in?
Sure. So one positive is it only takes one song to change your life. Literally. I'll give a quick story. Years ago, when I was first working, I was collaborating with a producer who was Kanye West's first cousin and John Legend's best friend. And I was going back and forth from Philadelphia working with them. And 1 week, so I went up, and then 2 weeks later, I got a call and from the producer, and he said to me, he said, what is this on a desktop? So I had just been working in Logic and produced a record. And I said, well, what is it called? And it was called like World Music or something like that. And so I was like, oh, that's something I was working on. I didn't even take it with me when I left. And he goes, well, John Legend heard it. And he said, and he wants it for his album. And I was like, really? Okay. So the cool thing about this record is that John Legend recorded it. I had forgotten all about it, right? But I left my element, came back, John records the song. It ended up being Obama's campaign song. And now it's a song that's being licensed still, to this day. So that was a positive. So music will never go out of style. That was the second positive, because of the licensing that happens. And then the negatives they're hard for me because I'm always, I find myself turning them into something positive. So if I had to say anything, it would be the need to leverage the cost of music. So sure, people are still coming out to hear live performances, but those creating the music who may not perform are getting pennies for their work due to streaming limitations. And so that's one I would say negative that we're working on all the time.
Great. Okay, now that you said that, I have a little follow-up question to think about that, because now that we explained the positives and negatives about the music industry, what do you think the future of music could be as people constantly create new types of styles?
The future music for me, as I see it, is the world is changing, right? It changes at fast paces, and I see new sounds coming about. I see more innovative productions in terms of race collaboration and gender and reach. So I think that we're in a time now that we can be more creative maybe than ever. And so the collaborations, I definitely feel like it's going to open up a lot of ways that we haven't seen music evolve before. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing where we go from here. And a lot of you all are gonna be who makes that change and evolves it. So yeah.
Maria, are you here?
Yes, I am. Reflecting on what was just said. I have a related question. So recently, diversity has been increasing in the music industry. As you've said, collaboration and creativity is becoming easier and easier as roles and norms get overcome and redefined. Could you please tell us your take on how that is improving, redefining musical genres throughout the world, or whether perhaps there's something better that could be being done in order to redefine, say, for example, classical music to make it more accessible, to make it more popular? Sorry, let me just simplify the question. So how is diversity helping to redefine musical genres, in particular classical music?
In particular, so I'm seeing a lot of changes, so as it speaks to classical music, I'm not exactly sure with that, but as it speaks to I look at it like this. So the hard part is that some people don't want to live outside of what they do, right? And some genres tend to be a little bit slow moving and how they open up to different things. But I believe people are exploring much more now. One of the examples that I can give to you is how is more of a focus on female DJs and producers coming to the forefront. So this is producers in various genres. And so these are areas where they were considered more male dominant art forms. And so that's changing, and there's more of a spark there right now. And it's exciting. It's showing that things are changing because there's real interest there now. So yeah. So I can tie to you in that way. I'm not sure that I completely answered your question, but
No, that helps. Thank you.
sure.
Now that leads me to another question. Do you believe that redefining music genres is a goal that all musicians should pursue? Because you talked about how certain genres are very slow moving, and a lot of people don't want to like move away from the thing that they're like known to be good at, and which I do see as well.
Right.
And if so, what steps would you recommend for the people in order to take that and achieve this goal?
Man, this is a great question. I do believe that all musicians should pursue it, and it should be an interest. I believe we're all influenced by other genres of music more than we realize a lot of times. And so when we think about country music, how it came from the blues, it's pretty fascinating because now they're vastly different. And so it's important. Let's see, in recommending ways to achieve the goal, I believe it's important that our specific musical genres and experiences alone are not the driving forces of the world of music. It's important to know that, and collaboration is key. And so most of my personal growth and professional growth has come from collaboration and not turning inward for that inspiration. So yeah.
Leading back to what you said, I also really agree, because in certain music, like when I listen to certain music, I can see like certain influences reaching from other places. Like you said, country and blues, like you can see an influence from there. I'm starting to see a lot more hip hop and reach other genres as well. I just find it like really amazing when like different things collab, because then like someone like, oh, I'm a country fan, like have you heard this element of hip hop? And like it just creates more and more music fans, and like it's like an ever growing thing of music.
That's right. Yeah, it helps the evolution of music, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I know you said like collaboration is key, and like speaking on that, like have you worked with multiple genres of like different kinds of music? And if you have, how do you think you've contributed to the redefinition of these genres that you've worked with?
Yeah. So my thinking is, what could I play that is completely left or what this person normally hears? You know, it's not about them liking it or not what is important to them, but it's what are they hearing that's outside of their norm? You know, and it's an ongoing conversation because it's like I said before, it's easier to become insular in your approach and what's important. And yeah, not everybody's going to be open to something other than what they're used to. But I see more in that. I'm hopeful now. I'm much more hopeful. I see a lot more collaboration happening with folks, and so it's great.
Bryant, thank you so much for coming. And I've already learned a lot from our conversation already. But I had a question. So what motivates you to create innovative music? And you could talk about anything like, is there a tangible thing that motivates you, or is it just abstract? Feel free to explain.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. So listening to the radio or even just playlists when streaming, because these playlists are just endless a lot of times on Spotify, Apple Music, right? And just hearing them, it's all over now. And so you can take that and it will inspire you to create. And sometimes, honestly, the radio, which a lot of people aren't listening to, but that can be uninspiring. And so it's like, what can I do to bring this thing back to life? So there's always something new out there that we can easily miss. And so you have to be intentional about your listening. You have to take time even just to listen to various types of music. I mean, you can go into Spotify. It's kind of like YouTube. You know how you go on YouTube and you click on a video and it'll keep taking you other ways. It keep taking you. That's kind of how music is now. And so it's like, just let yourself kind of go off a little bit and hear hear what's happening in the world. And if I may just put a pin there just for a quick second, what other types of music do you all listen to, other than classical? Any of you?
I would love to go first.
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to listen to like a lot of stuff. I listen to sometimes rap, R&B. Sometimes I go into different languages. Like I've been listening to a lot of Hispanic towards music or Japanese type rock. It's just a whole bunch of everything. I'm totally down to give out suggestions if necessary. But like I try to like diversify my music taste as much as possible because I feel like that's one of the like best ways of reaching someone because everyone sort of listens to music even if they say they don't. So like getting to know someone who like listens to a certain amount of music, it can work for better collaboration. And
Right.
you can also put them on something else that they never like had the opportunity to listen to. And like it creates just more collaboration and it's like an ever going ladder of collabing.
Right. Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. It's I can't agree more. And what happens too with me is that somebody will play something that I've never heard before because I'm always open. I'm like, what are you listening to? What's inspiring for you? What's motivating you to keep, making music? And they'll play one thing and it's like, what? I haven't thought about it this way, or even just arrangement, different arrangement. Anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to stay back around to kind of like related to like what I asked you about collaborative like music related. So like I listen to like a lot of like video game like scores and like television scores and like soundtracks like that. And I think they're really cool and like something that I listened to this morning on my way to school. Do you know Ray Chan, the violinist?
Yes.
Yeah. He played a song on the animated show Arcane, which is like something that not a like lot of like you see with like violinists like Ray Chan or like Hilary Hahn, for example, and I think that's like a really cool collaboration to see.
Right.
And like, kind of like a violinist like in the classical like realm where like a lot of people our age see it as like really boring and not to their interest, but like seeing a violinist like him collaborate with like an animated series to help with the score, I think that's really great and it's redefining.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
I'm sorry, if I could just bounce off what Morris said with the whole violin and classical thing. I've also heard the stigma that like, oh, violin's very boring, why don't you play something else? I don't want to play classical music. But this winter, Kappa played a selection by Black Violin called A Flat. And Black Violin is like a hip hop group that also plays strings. Yeah. And I just find that whole thing very like inspiring because a lot of people will say, oh, with classical music, but like that group, they show how like a violin is an instrument and it is able to be played by like certain different genres. That like opens up other people to like, oh, maybe I should try this out and like try a new form of violin. So it's not limiting it only to the classical world.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love though. Thank you.
Thank you for all that. I took so much and learned so much from that conversation. But now I wanted to ask. Sorry. I wanted to ask, how would you combine your experience in the pandemic for your future projects or ambition later down in the line?
Oh, sure. So the pandemic has pushed me to dig deeper. Not to be too daunting, but a lot of life has been lost during the pandemic, and it made me want to be more thoughtful in how I was releasing music in terms of subject matter. And it's presented a lot of opportunities to be more purposeful in expression. Um, I feel like a lot of people are just digging deeper in general in terms of subject matter and how we're just getting music out. So yeah, just expression. It's really enhanced my expression.
How do you like express yourself in your music, if I can ask like that?
Sure. I mean, it could be singing. It could be every now and then it'll be rapping a little bit here and there. I'm a pianist, so sometimes I'll just sit down and play. Sometimes I'll produce, so I make tracks, and sometimes even in engineering and mixing, I can sit down and sit in a mix for 5 or 6 hours and just go to another place. There's creativity even in that, believe it or not. I know it's like a technical, people kind of look at it as a technical thing, but it's creative. It's funny because we never see those engineers, right? We never see those people who are mixing the music, but you can have two people mix a piece and have completely different experiences listening to it. So yeah, it could be singing, writing, producing, engineering. Yeah.
I think that's great. That's great.
Wow, I had never heard of producing music as a type of engineering before. Would you mind telling us about how you acquired the skills required to do this engineering? Because you're right, I had regarded this as a very technological thing. I guess as well as that question, if you would mind answering, like, what should young people who are interested in producing music start doing now to prepare themselves for a career in it?
Right. So believe it or not, collaboration. My experience, I started, and I spoke of it a little bit more before, but my experience has been a lot of trial and error. So I started really young making music, and I did not for me, I didn't go to school for it. I didn't go. I mean, I went to, I graduated and everything, but I didn't go to college for that. I left school and immediately went into the world of music and the industry. And so it just afforded me a lot of different opportunities just by staying open and getting into these other areas where it was more building partnerships and different things like that. But it was a lot of just people along the way who saw how much I was into it and how dedicated and devoted I was to it that kept pulling me in different directions. Like if you have the heart and you have the tenacity to keep moving and keep pushing, there's always going to be opportunities that'll be created around you. And so I've just been blessed enough to be able to come into amazing opportunities and partnerships and relationships over the years. In terms of development, I really believe you got to work on your craft, but to stay open. And the cool thing about a lot of this generation, a lot of the students in this generation, is people are looking in a multifaceted way out. So you're not just saying, okay, I'm just a singer. Like, okay, I'm a singer, but I might, have some publicist work going on, or I may even be into production, or I'm seeing that a lot of people are being multi in that way. And so you got to keep developing, and networking is going to be imperative as always. But then just staying close to what's happening musically. You want to just stay curious. Yeah. That's something that I hear all the time. I'm sure you hear it too, but it's really a thing. Stay curious, because in the middle of, let's say, like my pursuit of being a producer and an artist and a musician, I open myself up to community a little bit more, because you can become a little bit too insular in your approach, and you'll be behind a board, or you'll just be playing, and you don't expand enough. And so I would just say keep expanding, find ways, reading, whether it's YouTube, there's I mean, copious amounts of information on YouTube, on the internet, and there's a lot, but stay curious and keep just driving yourself to do that. Make time for that development. A lot of the things I've learned have been just being curious and just continuing to go after it. So yeah.
You literally just answered my question before I even asked it. I was gonna ask the fact that you mentioned working with so many talented and famous artists. Well, one, I was gonna ask you like, what was it like working with them? Like, did you ever get like starstruck or anything? But another question that you kind of answered already was like, how would you like, what advice would you give someone who opens to market out and like they're working on their networking to like end up reaching to like the level of like collabing with like other artists?
Yeah, you know what? I would say to say yes. And when I started saying yes, like no opportunity is going to be too big or too small. Always keep yourself open. And the one thing that ties kind of back into that whole John Legend situation when that happened was you have to leave your element. You know, and one thing that I feel like we do as musicians, as people, I'll say even, we'll stay in our elements, in our areas, in our spaces, and it doesn't allow us to network enough and to just get out of our heads and get out of our comfort zones. So I would say that if you have an opportunity, even if it's not out of the city, but you may go to a friend's house and collaborate, or you may, whatever it is, change up. If you're going to go right in the park, you got to leave your element. And I think about a lot of the placements and the opportunities where I've worked with people. I had to leave where I was, you know, and the internet can make you lazy because we can do everything that we need to. I mean, the pandemic has shown us that, right? Everybody's working from home. You can go to school from home, and people have gotten lazy. I feel like because now people are like, oh, do I have to go back to work? I don't know. I don't want to, you know. And so I say still, you want to push yourself out to, right. Somebody was saying it. Yeah, Patricia, you're right. And so, yeah, just keep pushing yourself to get out because there's just something in there. Even just taking a walk and coming back and creating it does so much. In terms of being starstruck, one of the times I'm typically not too starstruck because I'm always realizing that people are people. I mean, you know, look what happened at the Oscars. We don't even have to go into all of that, but people are people, right? And so, and by the way, yeah, well, we won't go into that, down that rabbit hole. But Janet Jackson, I'll say that was a hangout that I was like, okay, I'm not going to get any work done because this is weird. This is absolutely weird. So yeah, Janet was a little weird. I actually met Will and hung out with him. Will was absolutely cool. Slightly starstruck there. And maybe Jay-Z. Jay-Z was a little starstruck, you know, for me there. So yeah, but everybody's people, as you all know. We're all human. So
You know, it's really good to recognize like the humanity and like people. It's like celebrities and such because people don't really like do that. And I feel like with the events that took place yesterday, we can see that a little more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many views. There's a lot going on, you know, but we are human. We are all human. And these are tough times. I mean, let's be realistic about it. These are tough times that we haven't seen before. There's a lot of pressures that are affecting every sector in our world. And so it is what it is. We're still human at the end of the day.
And like that is true. I kind of wanted to you mentioned like a while ago how you didn't attend college and you like marketed and you made connections, and like I'm actually writing an essay about that, so I think that's like crazy. It's about like college and such. And for people who are like looking to make connections and like branch themselves out, like would you recommend that, or like if you recommend like not attending if like that's your like specific goal, because some people just like do it and kind of like waste your money if like it's on something that's like, I don't know, what's your opinion?
No, I absolutely say continue continue in college. I mean, there are incredible. I would hang out at colleges, but I wasn't actually enrolled. There is a network, there's a thing that happens there that is special. So I think you owe it to yourself. And even if you get there, and it's not working out, you can talk to your parents or who, and make decisions. But I think you should definitely continue education. I am a huge proponent of education, and I do believe that there is major value in college and continuing in that way. It was just for me, I was a different kind of, it's like there weren't a lot of conversations like that going on in my house, and so it was, I think it was really just like an access kind of thing as well. It wasn't like the top of what was happening in my home. So if I could have done it, if that was something that was pushed, sure. But I mean, we all know that there are advantages, even if you do your 4 years and then you're like, all right, I'm not going to go any further. It's like, there is a certain edge that it can give you if you're invested and if it's important to you. So yeah, if you have the opportunity, go, go, yeah.
I'll add that to my essay argument.
All right.
Just something to add, like on the basis of education. So you were talking about how like you have definitely developed through your music production, but how do you think we can make music production, like the genre as a whole, more accessible to younger students? Because like we already know so much about like what you can do as a doctor or a lawyer, but since this field is so new, how do you think we can make this career like a little bit more available and like how students like actually see what's going on like behind the scenes?
Well, one great way, I mean, we look at our social access, right? Our social media access and what we're able to do. When you're talking about the youth, I mean, they're there. I mean, and then the other thing that I guess we have to consider too is equity, which becomes a bigger issue because some people may not have internet or some people may not have access to the phones, and then that's, you have to go into the schools, and then there's some groundwork that can happen there, which you're old enough to do as well. But I say use your social media platforms as much as you can. So if it's Instagram, if it's TikTok, and because everything is moving so fast and people see it, they see it. So, you know, and then maybe even one thing that I've heard that a lot of students are doing are they're going like say to hospitals to play for younger kids, or you can go to areas, you want to make sure that they're safe areas, but you can go and just look for opportunities, whether it's at schools, whether it's at organizations in the city. It might be settlement music school. They may have something going on, and then you get with these other students that you can pull together some cool ideas or different ways. Like I said, you're going to be creating a lot of those things, and sometimes you can just sit and reflect, and you're really close to technology and how things are moving. So just stay close in that way, and stay open in your information. Just keep the information coming in, and you'll find ways. You'll come. Keep saying yes.
Yeah. So I had a question too. So what are some examples of situations in your career where you felt very excited about working in the music industry? And were any of these situations like places where you contributed to innovation and redefining musical genres, or even bringing out change in the music industry?
Yeah, yeah. So, let's see. So again, for me, it's staying close to what's happening musically. Life is just great. It's great inspiration for content. There's a lot. There's a lot to pull from in our everyday experiences. So, the one great thing about music is no one experience is going to be alike. And so, yeah, one person's experience is going to be completely different than the next. So a good example of this too is a movie, August Rush. I don't know if y'all have seen that, but if you haven't, check it out. For me, sometimes the world is it's just world music, and in the realm of encouraging and unity. Then some days I'll just switch. I may switch to love songs. It just depends. So, yeah, like right now, collaboration wise, there's a lot of conversations about just the war and creating more peace, and just staying sensitive to the current circumstances, and what's happening, but because we're all being affected in some way. So yeah, that was a full question, but I think I touched it.
Yeah, and a follow-up question to that I had. So looking back in your musical career, is there anything that you would have done differently if you got the chance?
Yeah, sure. Not saying yes enough. and sometimes, like, okay, so I'll tell you, when I first got, this is a good one. I don't talk about it a whole lot because you'll see why. But when I first got my publishing deal with Sony Music, I went to the office in New York, and that day Beyonce was working, and my rep said, "Hey, listen, Beyonce's over at this studio, and it was somewhere in Manhattan." And he said, "I need you to go in and pin for her. How are you feeling about it?" And I turned to my manager and I said, "I don't know." And he said, "You don't know?" And I said, "No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet." And I passed on working with Beyonce. Now, for me, it was one of my first sessions, right? So I didn't want to bomb it. But looking back in hindsight, I would have just said yes, right, for the experience. And so, so yeah, and so that's one. Getting out of your comfort zone. It's going to be uncomfortable. If you're growing, you already know that's going to be uncomfortable. And then here's another thing. It sounds very simple, but instead of texting, pick up your phone and call people. Just call. That has been enormous. You get a lot more done, believe it or not, in relationship building. It helps. People like the fact that you've, taken the time to call. And then that's funny. Yeah. And then one more great thing too is normalizing adventure. Right. So for me, I don't like things to just be the same all the time. So I'm a mobile producer as well. So like, take for instance, I just came back from a writing session with a client. We were out of the cabin in the middle of the woods, just writing for 4 days. And I believe that it kind of it gives you a different perspective. You're out in the nature. There's deer, there's fox. It's just, and so just get out of your element sometime to try something different. So normalize adventure. I would say I would be very just in my own, like a hermit, so yeah, keep doing that. Telephobia, yes. I hear you. Yeah.
So I had a couple questions about encouraging others and community like impactment. So do you sometimes oversee what you do and how it impacts the community, and how has that changed you? And as a follow-up, how would you encourage others to continue to do music in their own way?
Yeah. So for me, it's been I work backwards, so I'll start with your last one. It's therapeutic, right? Music is therapeutic, I'm sure, for you all too. And it's one of those things where I feel like if I'm not doing it, then I start to fall apart a little bit. And so it's never hard to feel inspired in that. But the other thing that I'll have to do is just listen to music and remember why and how I fell in love with music, because sometimes it does become monotonous, like anything. I mean, if you make cakes all the time or whatever it is, it'll just become second nature and monotonous. But just keep listening to music, and staying open in that way. In terms of reaching others, I think it just goes back to staying socially aware, whether it's social media, and your excitement is going to come through the screen. So whether it's a phone, whether it's going to come through. So keep that excitement. And sometimes you'll have to push yourself forward a bit, because like I said, it's tough. It's tough navigating. We're all dealing with different situations, but you never know who is going to benefit just from your joy and joy in what you do. And so I say always try to just push that forward and chase that joy. And then it'll just come through natural, and people will be inspired. It'll motivate them. So yeah, I hope I answered your question with that.
Yeah, that was well put. Thank you.
Something to kind of go off of what you were talking about, how like social media is definitely a way you can help communicate. Like a lot of the times here at Project 440 and with Yak, we try and get a lot of people to like come to these events, or we're just trying to get the name and like what we're doing out there. And so we're trying to use social media as a platform, but do you have any suggestions on like how to get your name out there, or like how you got your name out there to make it so well known and to have other people be like, yeah, I know them, you should use them, or kind of getting those connections together?
Yeah, just get creative, and I keep tying it back to collaboration because I'm really heavy in that area. But I believe that if you talk to those at your organization and tell them that you have interest in collaborating with others, you can create more opportunities that way. And then your name is just going to keep moving around. And like I said, you just got to keep saying yes, no matter how big or small something seems. A lot of the great opportunities that I've got were connected from things that I didn't really want to do. And I know that I know that doesn't sound fun, but I would push myself to go. Like I would sit at home and I say, like if it was a networking event, I don't think I want to do this. I don't. And then I would end up going, and something wonderful would be happening. And it's those times where you really don't want to go that you should push yourself out. So check out what's going on at the Man. Check out, I'm thinking Philadelphia specific. Check out, like I said, Settlement Music School, or Musicopia. Like what's happening at these other organizations where you can kind of merge and pump life into our community. So yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay. I was just gonna like bounce off of that and agree with what you said, because I feel like your life could simply change by just like by doing so small things. So like going out to that one concert that you were invited to, or like gonna go see that one show that you heard was really good, and like meeting someone there, and like just from that you can instantly start collabing, and like it could change your life completely, and it's just so great.
Yeah.
And I also think it's great for like, yeah, especially like these music programs in Philadelphia to collaborate. I know like a few of them like already do, but also to like for them to collaborate so that they like have different like perspectives that like vary, and to like contribute to each other to better all of these programs. Like you don't really see like PYO like partnering with like smaller like organizations, or like I don't know, discussing things with like all city orchestra, like the school district, because like I don't know, they're like really two different environments. And I think that like that kind of partnership and collaboration would be great to like kind of like move toward like I don't know, kind of like redefining and like moving toward like a better and like current thing. I'm trying to phrase it the best way, but like something like likable for like people like our age, and like more enjoyable. Not
Yeah.
saying that like PYO is, I like enjoyed, never not, but it's kind of like PYO is a little like old timey, stuck in its era. You know what I'm saying?
But see, it's those perspectives, and it's your experience and your perspective that is why these conversations are great, because it's going to help push those things. You know, if this is coming from you, and we want your experiences to be the most fulfilling, and where you can grow and feel great about where you're spending your time, then we have to continue having these conversations. So it's great, know that your voice does make a difference, but we have to make sure that we are voicing it, and not, and so that's the power. That's the power that you have, because you get to say that. You get to say what your experience is, and more times than not, you're going to have others to stand with you that agree with you. And so what is the harm in these different models and these different energies coming together to create something that is more beneficial for everyone? That's the whole idea of collaboration, right? So no, it's good. That's really, really strong. It's powerful what you said. So I just wanted to lift that. Yeah.
You phrased that a lot better than me.
You did good. You did good. Don't worry. So cool. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah. I'm seeing in the
I
chat.
have a question.
Sure.
So I would like to ask, I know you talk about like a lot of like different experience and memories. I want to ask like, what is like one most meaningful like event in your musical career? Is there like a story like you just really cherish about?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Yes. I've never told this story. So you're getting this first, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I think this will help someone. It's about the power of music. And I believe that it's okay to talk about it on here. So I was at my studio one night, and I created a song. The song was called Teach Me. It was an inspirational song called Teach Me, and the lyrics were Teach Me to Pray, right? Because I feel like, not to be too religious, but I believe that a lot of us grow up certain ways, so we pray a certain way because of how we've grown up, and we never really get a chance to make real connection, or the healthiest connection we can make. So I wrote a song called Teach Me, which maybe I could share with you one day. And I stayed at the studio that night, got up early that next morning, and called an Uber to go home, right? So I get in the Uber, and this freshly bounced song that I had wrote on the piano and sang, for some reason, I was supposed to play it for this lady in the car. All right. So I I say to her, and I know it sounds odd, but I was like, hey, listen, I want to play a song for you that I wrote. Do you have the attachment? Is it okay to play this for you? And she says, sure. She says, why not? So she puts the song on. The lady pulls over on the side of the road as it's playing. Yes, the aux cable. Thank you. And she plays a song, and she pulls over maybe halfway through it. And I'm looking down, and I look up, and the lady is pouring tears. The tears are just pouring, right? So I sit there. I'm like, something's happening. I don't even say anything. I'm just patient. And she finally says something after the song goes off. She was literally on her way home. I was her last person. She was on her way home to take her life. And she said that it gave her hope, and we exchanged information, and we're literally Facebook friends to this day. And she drops me lines all the time. And that was the most powerful moment of my music career. But it's just the power of music. You can never deny it. And that should be enough for you to keep doing what you're doing, and know that you all have something special to contribute, whether it's your voice, your gift of music, how you play your instruments, whatever it is that you do. Music saves lives. It saves lives. And so just know that. thank you for pulling that out of me. I've never told that story. Trying to hold it together right now, even talking about it, but yeah.
Wow, that was really inspiring. Anyone else has another question?
I just wanted to comment on that because my orchestra teacher is always talking about how, like, what you play, a lot of the times when we play a piece, we think it's for our enjoyment or it's for so that we can enjoy playing our instruments, but really it's about the emotion it conveys and, like, the people that we can reach through the emotions we're feeling.
Yeah.
And, like, this one piece we were playing was just so heartbreaking. And I just felt like it reminded me of what you said because, like, you're not supposed to it's not supposed to make you feel better, but in a way it's supposed to help save all those people out there who just need to hear that. He always says there's going to be one person in that audience who just needs to hear that right now.
Right.
And I thought what you said just completely touched on that perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I want to comment on that. It's like when we perform, it's kind of like we tell a story with what we're doing, and sometimes when like we're playing certain pieces that really connect with us in the audience, it kind of interchangeably tell us a story about how we learned the piece, how it applies to us, and how our own experience with music kind of applies to the piece. And with that, it reaches the audience, and like that person that needs to hear it in that time, it kind of brings a stronger connection between the player and the audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, they say if it comes from the heart, it reaches the heart. So.
I think that's amazing. And I think a part of like I like actually like experience like something like similar to like me feeling like I'm supposed to enjoy my music like Lily said. And then just like having such like a negative like mindset towards my like music or like doing this performance. And I had a recital Saturday, and like I was just like so like upset beforehand, and like I listened to Ray Chen play it. I'm like, wow, this is so much emotion, and I'm really enjoying this. I was like, okay, maybe this is what I should like put toward like my performance and how I should like have this outlook and like look passionate and play passionately so that other people feel that same way. So I think that like you talking about that and knowing that and having like so much like having experience with like that and like and that similarity, I think that's great. And yeah.
Wow, and that's really good. Yeah, sometimes I'll go back and over the years you'll find different performances that you'll be able to go back to that will just inspire you all over again, or just remind you why you got involved with what it is, or I mean, why you spend most of your time in your life developing something, you know. So I try to keep like little moments of that. And the other thing too, I would say, is just to continue to celebrate small successes as well. That's something that I work on every day. Is just appreciating whatever good is happening in my life, you know. Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat that it's a struggle. It can be a struggle, yes, absolutely. But you know, you have to redefine what we're talking about, redefining classical music. But we have to redefine what we consider as success sometimes, right? Like, so we wake up and I mean, success for me some days is just making my bed. Because you wake up and you're like, oh, another day, so celebrate the small wins, made my bed today. Yes, I'm here. Yeah. All those wins add up.
All right, so as much as we all like to continue talking, we have reached our time for this event. So I would just like to take a moment to thank you, to thank everyone, to thank our special guests, and to thank everyone who's stuck around and enjoyed and watched and listened to this really amazing conversation. So many amazing stories, so many great points and great questions were brought up, and we're just so happy to have Mr. Bryant here. And so our next Music in Color event will be our last one this season. It will be on May 23rd. So be sure to stay tuned and join our final event for the season. Thank you all for watching.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much.